In this video, we're going to do test review 2. So number 1, correctly show substitution of the first equation into the second. So if you look closely at this, I want to take this right here. This is y equals, right? And I'm going to replace it with the y in the second. So I take the y in the first, replace it for y in the second. I'm substituting, right? So let's go ahead and do this. And it just says to show substitution. We don't have to solve, we don't have to do anything else. We just have to plug it in correctly. So the way I would plug this in is I would just write my second equation, 3/4 x minus 1/8. Now instead of y, I'm going to do parentheses, and that's where this whole thing will go right into here. So I just do negative 6x plus 16, parentheses, and then I continue my equation. Equals 34. And that's my answer, that's it. I have correctly shown substitution of the first into the second, and that's all I have to do. Okay, number 2. Solve the following equation correctly for y and reduce all fractions, if any. Okay, so I have y right here. I need y by itself. So the first thing I want to do to get y by itself is to move the 28x and the 5z. Okay, so I move anything that's not y to the other side of the equation. So this will go over here, and this will go over here. Okay, so I would just do minus, so this is positive 28x, so minus 28x when I move it. And this is plus 5z, so minus 5z. Okay, so that's my first step. Now I'll go ahead and rewrite this whole thing. So what do I have left? I moved 28x, I moved 5z. So notice I have minus 8y. I can't ignore the negative. If you forget the negative, then the answer will be a little off. So I have minus 8y equals, and I'm just going to write it in order, negative 40 minus 28 x minus 5z. Okay, now my last step for this, of course, I want to get rid of that negative 8, so I'm going to divide everything over here by negative 8. And then now I have to reduce anything that I can. Okay, so that leaves me with just y equals, that's what I want. I'm solving for y. So on the test it'll say solve for x, y, or z. So whichever one it tells you, that's all you got to solve for and you're done. So on this first one, first off I have two negatives, that makes it positive. 40 divided by 8 is, let's go over here. So 40 divided by 8 is 5. Okay, on the x, I have two negatives again, so that's plus. So I'm going to go ahead and write plus. 28 over 8, of course, that doesn't reduce, but 4 does go into both. 4 goes into 28 7 times. 4 goes into 8 twice. And that's x. And then the last one, of course, two negatives again, make it plus, so I'm going to go ahead and do plus. And 5 over 8 does not reduce at all, so we just leave it 5 over 8, and that's z. And that's our final answer. So we solve for y, or whatever variable they tell you, and you're done. Alright, next question. Number 3, show the first step needed to eliminate the variable y of the system. Okay? So let's take a look at this. I want to get rid of, whoa, not that. I'm going to get rid of y, okay? So I have plus 4y and minus 8y. They are not the same number, so I have to make them the same. Fortunately for this question, I can multiply this 4 by 2 to make it 8, and it's already a plus and a minus. So I'm set on the plus and minus. I don't have to worry about that. And now all I have to do is just say multiply this by positive 2, right? So that would actually be the first step, and that is my answer. That's it. So it asks for the first step needed to eliminate y. My first step is I had to multiply the top by 2. That would make it, if I were to do this, that would make it a plus 8y and a minus 8y. I wouldn't touch the bottom. And those would eliminate. That's the goal. So if it says first step, it's just whatever you would multiply the equations by, whether it's one equation or both, and that's it. You don't actually have to do it. You just have to show what it would be. Alright, next one. Determine at least one ordered pair that is a solution to the system. Okay? So normally on the test I would give you one and say, is this a solution, yes or no? But just for practice sake, I just need to pick any x and y to throw in there and see if it works. So I'm just going to pick a random 3 and 1. You can pick any two numbers and try. I would kind of stay low just in case. You don't want to go too high and do like, 230 and negative 4,000. Like, that'd be stupid. You would do way too much work that you don't need to do. I keep all the numbers small in the test anyways. So I'm just going to keep with small numbers. So 3 and 1, remember this is x and y. I would replace that with the x on both and the y on both, and just see if it's true, yes or no. Okay? So like on the first one, I would do 5 times x is 3 plus 9 times y, which is 1. And again, you can use these numbers or you can use any other numbers. You just got to test it out. Okay, so 5 times 3 is 15. 9 times 1 is 9. 15 plus 9 is 24. And that is greater than 16, so that checks out. Alright, the next one, we have negative 7x. I'm going to scoot over here. So negative 7x is 3. And the rest of it was plus 3y plus 3 times y, which I picked 1, and less than or equal to negative 15. Okay. So again, I just solve this and see if it's true, yes or no. So negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, negative 21 plus 3 is negative 18. And yes, negative 18 is less than negative 15, so that checks out. So actually, this random number I came up with happens to work. So again, this is just about practicing plugging this in to try it out, because you will have to do this on the test. On the test, I'm going to give you one, or I'm going to ask which one works. And so you'll have narrow choices. It won't be just whatever, right? So just practice plugging that in and getting yes or no. Alright, look at 5. 5 is a little different. When solving systems of equations, how would you get no solution? So again, it's one of our special answers, right? We have no solution, infinite solution, or all real numbers. So to get no solution, I would have to have two things, right? I would have to have no variables left. So I'm just going to write no variables. Like if all the letters cancel out, however you want to write that. So I have no variables, no letters, they all cancel out, right? That's one thing that I have to have. And the second is a false equation. So whatever's left is not true. So if you remember from doing that, our x's or y's, whatever, everything would cancel out, and what was left would be like, say, 7 equals 0. 7 does not equal 0. That's false. So that would be no solution. So that's how I would get that. And number 6 is very similar. How would you get infinitely many solutions? Or all real numbers, however you want to call that. So infinitely many, again, I would have to start off with no variables. You know, still everything cancels out or goes away. My x's and y's are gone. But this time, to get infinitely many, I would want the opposite. I want a true equation. So for no solution, I want a false equation. For infinitely many or all real numbers, I want a true equation. But both of them don't have any variables. There's no letters, just numbers. Alright, so number 7. Oh, this one shouldn't be too bad. So notice I have a graph already here. It says name at least 2 points that are solutions. Okay? So remember, my solutions are anywhere in the shaded area. So anything in this triangle I can use. Okay? So just pick any 2 points. I'm going to pick a point here, and let's go way down here. Okay? So the first point is -1, -2. So if I go back to 7, I can do -1, -2. And the second one that I picked was -3, -3. Of course, there are several answers on this one. Those are just 2. There's a bunch that you could have picked. And so number 8 is the opposite. Name at least 2 points that are not solutions. So to get to be not a solution, I just want anywhere outside of the triangle that's shaded. So I can go way up here, and I can go over here. Again, anywhere out here is fine. Any 2 are okay. On the test, I'll have a list, and you pick the ones that are or are not, depending on the question. So this first one is on the left, -3, 3. And on the right, I have 4, 1. And again, there's many solutions that are true. Those are just 2, and that's all I needed. Alright, let's go to the back page. I know this looks scary because there are fractions, but I wrote these a specific way on purpose. So, number 9, solve the system using substitution. Notice I already have it set up to where I have a y equals, oh my gosh, y equals all of this right here, which kind of makes it already easy to take that whole equation on top and plug it in to the y on bottom. I did that on purpose to make substitution easier to do. You just plug it in and go from there. You don't have to solve, so it saves a little bit of time. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in or substitute that in. So I have 28x minus 30, and now instead of y, remember I'm going to do parentheses and write in that top equation. And then equals -1. Now I can solve, distribute, all that stuff, okay? So I'm trying to get x. So the first thing I have to do is distribute this -30 to both of these fractions. And you're probably thinking, fractions, why? Well, don't worry. It'll be all okay. So, for 30 times 7 is 210. 210 divided by 12 is not a whole number, but it does reduce. So let's first off, this 28x didn't change, right? So I have 28x. Notice I have 2 negatives right here, so that would be plus. And so 210 over 12 just reduces to 35 over 2. And that's x, right? And then I do the same thing. -30 times 4 is -120. -120 divided by 3 is minus 40. Now don't worry, on the test I don't put fractions like this, right? I just did whole numbers and made it a little easier. But if you can do the one on the test review, the test will just be that much easier. So I always make the test reviews a little harder, that way you can practice the harder version, and if you're comfortable with that, the test will be way easier. But anyways, let's go ahead and finish this one. So notice I have a 28x plus 35 over 2x. I can't add those because they're not both fractions. But we've done this before. If this is over 1, I would just do times 2, right? 2 times 28 is 56 over 2x plus 35 over 2x minus 40 equals negative 1. Okay, now that these two fractions are both over 2, I can add the top two numbers. So, if you don't have a calculator, that's fine. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. 6 plus 5 is 11, 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 1 is 9, right? So I have 91 over 2x minus 40 equals negative 1. Now again, if you don't like showing all your work, that's up to you. I'm going to show it because I know some people like to. It definitely helps, especially if you make a mistake. It's very easy to go back and check everything you do. If you skip steps and you make a mistake, you may never notice and you'll get it wrong, and I don't want that. So from here, I want to move this negative 40 over here, so I do plus 40. Remember, you always have to do the opposite. So I have 91 over 2x equals 40 minus 1 is just 39. Okay, and then fractions. When fractions move, fractions flip. So times 2 over 91. And that's how I get rid of that. Okay, and just to keep going on here, so I have x equals 39 times 2 is 78. And then 78 over 91 reduces to 6 over 7. 13 goes into both of those. So yeah, we got x. Great. Awesome. X is good. Now we can take that x and plug it in for y, right? At the top up here. Let's go all the way back up. So we plug that x in for this x right here. And we can solve for y finally. Okay, so we have all this space. Let's use all this space. So I have y equals negative 7 over 12. Ooh. Instead of x, we're going to put in our 6 over 7. And you'll see how awesome this works out in a minute. 6 over 7, and then was that plus 4/3? Okay, plus 4/3. Some of you already see it and you're going, oh, I know what you were going to do. Alright, so we got to multiply these, right? But notice if I multiply these two fractions right here, I can reduce, right? So these 7s are the same, they just go away. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. I have y equals negative, well, what's left on top, right? I have 6 on top, and on bottom I have 12. Plus 4/3. Now look, this 6 over 12 reduces, right, to 1/2, negative 1/2. Now we can do that, or some of y'all probably caught this, and I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. These top fractions up here, right? I need these to be the same number. Can I do that? Yes. All I have to do is multiply this one times 4, because 4 times 3 equals 12, and that's what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that first one alone. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 3, of course, is 12. Now I can do the top. 16 minus 6. And that gives me 10 over 12. Divide those by 2, you get 5 over 6. And that's y. So on our final answer for this one, I'm going to do x comma y, right? So my x is 6 over 7. My y is 5 over 6. See what I did there? 5, 6, 6, 7. That's my answer. Now, of course, on the test, like I said, I don't do fractions. On the test, I do whole numbers. So the test is definitely simpler than this, but the idea is the same. The concept the same, the process, the steps you take, distributing, combined like terms, all of that is the same. You just have different numbers, and on the test, they're all whole numbers, so it's easier. So if you understand that one, then the test will be a breeze. If you don't understand this one, you should probably go back and actually do your homework, and you might understand this a little better. Alright, look at number 10. Solve using elimination. Of course, I have this set up on purpose a certain way. Remember, the first thing you have to decide is, am I going to get rid of x or y? Now, I know a lot of y'all like to pick y for some reason, but that's okay. You can do y. In this case, if I notice, look at my x's. They're already plus and minus, positive, negative, and they're 8 and 16. And remember, I have to have them the same number, and I can easily make 8 into 16. If I did the y's, it would not be easy for me to make 9 and 15 the same number. I would have to do more work. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose to get rid of x, and the only thing I have to do first is multiply this first one times 2, right? That would make that 16x on top and minus 16x on bottom. That's what I want. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do 2 times 8x, 2 times negative 15y, and 2 times negative 11. So 2 times 8x is 16x. 2 times minus 15y is minus 30y. Equals 2 times negative 11 is negative 22. And look, the bottom I don't have to touch. That makes it easier. Less work. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want to do more work if I don't have to. Alright, so now we can eliminate or add these, subtract, whatever. So 16x, that's gone. So now I have negative 30 plus 9 is negative 21y. And then over here, because they're both negative, it'd be negative 35. And then of course, my last step to get y, I divide by negative 21. Now again, you're like, oh, a fraction again, really? That's okay. Again, this is the test review. I make the test reviews harder on purpose, because if you can understand this and do this okay, then the test will be much easier. And again, this is just more about practicing the steps, practicing the concepts, the process. So 35 over 21 reduces, right? First off, they're both negative, so that's positive. 7 goes into both of those. 5 and 3. Alright, we got y. That's a good thing. It is a fraction, but that's okay. I can now take this fraction and plug it in to either one of these, right? I'm going to go ahead and go for the bottom one, just because the y is smaller versus the top. Again, smaller numbers, easier to deal with, so that's what I'm going to do. So let's do this one right here. Again, you can do the top, you'll get the same answer. So negative 16x plus 9y. Now instead of y, I'm going to put in my number, 5/3. Some of y'all already see what's going to happen. My fraction goes away, and it's a great thing, right? That's what I want. Alright, so then I have equals negative 13. So when I multiply this, I can either do 9 times 5 divided by 3, or I do it the other way. I go backwards. I actually divide first and then multiply by the top. Okay? The reason I do that is because if you divide first, you're reducing, which makes the numbers smaller to multiply, and much easier. So 9, okay, real quick, hold on. Before I do that, let's go ahead and write negative 16x. That didn't change, right? Alright, so now I do 9 divided by 3. So there's divided by. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. See, that was much easier. And then equals negative 13. Alright, now I have a few more steps to do. So I want x by itself, so I move this over here and do minus 15. That gives me negative 16x equals, since they're both negative, I can just add them and keep it negative. That'd be 28. And then of course the last thing is I divide by negative 16. That gives me x equals, now they're both negative so it's positive, and 4 goes into both of those, right? 4 goes into 28 7 times, 4 goes into 16 4 times, there's my x. X and y. Now of course we'll go ahead and write it in the correct form. On the test you'll have to pick the right numbers in the right order. So I have x 7/4, comma y 5/3, and that's my answer. So again, if you understand how to do that and that was okay, not great maybe, but okay, like you can follow along, you understand, you can do that even with fractions, the test will be easier because it's all whole numbers, no fractions. Alright, last question is 11. Graph the system of linear inequalities and shade the enclosed area. So notice I've already helped you out on this, and I did this on the test. They all are already solved for y. At this point, I'm not worried if you can solve for y. We've already been doing that. I need to see if you can graph and shade and follow the rules of that, okay? So they're all solved for y, which makes it easier. So let's go through these. I'm going to graph this one first. So if you forget or have forgotten, we have y equals mx plus b. B is where you start. M is your slope, right? You're up and over or you're down and over. So b, our b on this one is minus 3. So let's go over here and start at negative 3. There's a point. Now my slope is 4x. All whole numbers are over 1, right? And it's positive. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. There's my next point. I can do it again. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1. There's my next point. So I have 3 points. You really only need 2. And notice that is not underlined, so this would be a dotted line. Okay, so I have one line. That's good. Now let's do the next one. I have b is negative 3 again. So I start at the same point. Only this time, look at my slope. Minus 3 over 2. So from here I'm going to go down 3. Oh, I can't. I mean, I really can, right? I can go 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2. I'd be about right here. Not exact, but pretty close. Whoa. But to get a point on the graph, I can go backwards. So instead of down 3 and then to the right 2, I'm going to go up 3 and then to the left 2. Okay? So same thing. I should go backwards. Then I can go up 3, left 2. So I get some points on the graph, and this one is underlined, so it is a solid line. And then of course the last one we have, last one we have is this, just y and 4. Okay, so there's our b, right? Because the b is just a number, no letter. So we go up to the number 4, and because there's no x, I just do a horizontal line, and it's dotted because it's not underlined. So horizontal line through 4. So there's my triangle, And that would be my answer right here, is this whole thing. Big O triangle right in the middle. And that's it. So that is the test review. Hopefully that has helped you. If you have any other questions, please reach out and ask. I want to be able to help you and be prepared for the test. Just please remember to do the test and don't forget.